2020 was a strange year, probably a year that no one really expected, and a lot of things didn't go the way we planned. I mean, it was supposed to be the perfect vision. It was 2020. But even for gamers, it didn't go as planned, and there were a lot of hiccups playing certain games that were really hyped up, and there were certain games that flew under the radar. And of course, the Game Awards were met with some controversy, and I wanted to talk about the games that I really cared about in 2020. And if you haven't gotten a chance to play, hopefully I can convince you to maybe start 2021 on the right foot. Greetings, fellow nerds. Welcome to another Nerdful video where we talk about video games, board games, anime, TV shows throughout the week, while also be playing MTG or Magic the Gathering. So if that stuff piques your interest, considering that subscribe button, save you your time finding me in the future. So today I wanted to talk to you about the 3 games that I ended up playing in 2020 that I really enjoyed, and that I hope that if you haven't gotten the chance to play, that this video will hopefully convince you that despite the crazy year that 2020 has been, that I can convince you that these games are 100% worth it. Because 2021, we're probably not going to get started into the normal life that we want to right away. We still got some time before the vaccine hits, and some time before government officials make some new changes. So we're still going to be indoors for a little bit longer, but these 3 games really kept me kept myself entertained, kept me busy while in the midst of working, being a law school student, doing an internship, and creating content for you guys. And these games are just fantastic, wonderful, and they definitely just deserve a little bit more recommendation as 2020 comes to a close. And let me just say that there were some games in 2020 that were such a huge disappointment, and I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But we all know that there were certain games that just really flopped, but these games really deserve the recognition that I'm giving them right now. So the first game I want to bring up is Final Fantasy VII, the HD remake. And I love the way that I love the direction that this game went. I was really surprised when I saw the trailers, and trailers mean a whole lot these days. Because I feel like trailers can be a little deceiving. Every now and then they'll have this great cinematic trailer and convince you, wow, this game's going to be really awesome, and then you get to the actual gameplay and you're really disappointed. It doesn't really feel like the trailer represented the game very well. It's very, I'm not going to say manipulative, it's just deceiving. But I felt like Final Fantasy VII, they were just straight to the point. Like, the cutscenes were exactly the way it was presented in the game itself. And they started off saying, by showing, hey, we're not doing we've moved away from the turn-based RPG that, we're kind of known for. I feel like the Final Fantasy games, when you play them, they were the turn-based RPG games that you would play and you'd love it, because even though it's not as action-packed as real time, the story was just so phenomenal that it didn't matter that you're playing a turn-based game that is quote-unquote slower than your traditional RPG game. So I was really happy that the trailer represented that well. And when we got to play the actual game, it was really good. It's not the perfect game, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's everything I remember from my childhood expanded. It's kind of, the joke is kind of like, the entire game is like the first 10 hours of the 300 or however many hours you would originally put into the first game that came out on the PS1. I mean, the first game had 2 discs at the time, which was crazy. But even though this just represented a small portion of the game, it was done beautifully. It was a lot of fun, and it brought me back to my childhood, and I thought that was really cool. Now I'm about to get in some spoilers. So if you haven't played the game, might want to click away. I'll probably leave a timestamp below when I talk about the next game, so you might want to skip to that in the description. But if you're content with spoilers, or you already played the game, continue watching. So I gotta say, the ending was probably a surprise for a lot of us, but this is kind of the typical, the kind of joke is that everyone's like, what the heck, alternative endings, what's going on? This they're taking a whole new direction. Part 2 is going to be like kind of, we're going to be going into the unknown, because now there's alternate timelines and dimensions, and the joke is like, oh, you've clearly never played a Kingdom Hearts game before if you think this is confusing. And it's kind of true. If you've played the entire main games of Kingdom Hearts, this is like pretty like almost elementary. It's very much like, oh yeah, alternate timelines, like that's, you know, even comics have introduced that. Like it's not like something huge. It's just a little new territory for original Final Fantasy players, Final Fantasy 7 players. And I have to say that I was shocked as well. I think I was only slightly disappointed that I wasn't playing the full game. I think that was my kind of disappointment towards the end, even though I loved the ending. The final boss fight was fantastic. It was intense. Like, I remember just like my heart was racing because I was like, oh my gosh, like we're already here. Like, what's going on? Like, we're fighting Sephiroth already. Like, you know, this isn't supposed to happen yet. But I think my disappointment came, even though I like the ending, and I am excited to see what new innovations are going to come from part 2, and if we get a part 3 or 4, who knows. I'm excited for that, but I think I was more disappointed of like, oh wow, I felt like my adventure was cut really short, and that I was ready to play more. You know, I was ready to dive into that big, massive storyline that the original Final Fantasy 7 had. I'm talking to a friend about it, and you know, he's like, you know, I've convinced him, like, you know, play the original because it's different, and I feel like you'll appreciate the original so much more for the story, the depthness, the characters, so much more if you play the original. And even though I was slightly disappointed, looking back at it now, it was still an amazing game. It really brought me back to my childhood, and it's something I definitely recommend, whether you've played the original or you're new to Final Fantasy 7 in general. So that's the first game I would recommend if you haven't played that in 2020. Now I'm going to be doing a little bit of cheating here because this is a game I'm still currently playing, and you know, I think I'm about a little bit more than halfway through the game, but it's worth talking about. And I'll admit I'm cheating a little bit because it's more of a franchise as a whole, but it is focused on a singular game. So you can call me out on it if you want. So the next thing I'm talking about is actually right over here. I'm pointing at it, AC Valhalla. I love the concept of the game, and I've played all of them except for like the mobile ones, and like I haven't like read any of the comics or the books, so I've just kind of played the main stories, and I haven't played like the in-between DLCs. Like, I didn't play a Freedom Cry, and I know that's like a spin-off of Assassin's Creed 4, and it ties I know Freedom Cry ties a little bit into Rogues, but I did play Rogues. That's, I think, a main story plot. But I'm only about halfway through the game, and if you're criticizing me why, I've pumped in about 110 hours, and I'm only halfway because I'm trying to be a completionist. And AC Valhalla is one of those games that's like massive in size, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. There's pros and cons about such a huge, massive game like AC Valhalla. And I'm a semi-completionist. I'm not going for like the platinum trophy. I'm just trying to clear the map, trying to get all like the treasures and stuff. That's the completionist I am. I don't go for the platinum trophies. I think that takes a little too long for me to enjoy the game. But anyways, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I was really, really surprised about the evolution of Assassin's Creed. I've talked about it twice on my channel. I'll put the links above my head and in the description box for you to kind of get my impressions about it. But I have to say that this is the best evolution that Assassin's Creed has taken. It's taken what it's learned from Origins and Odyssey and put it into Valhalla. And they listen to the fans, and I think that's really important. I think my biggest complaint in Odyssey, and I talk about this in my video, was that they did away with like one-shot stealth kills, and it's like, why would you do that? Like, it's called Assassin's Creed. Like, that's what the game was founded on, and they fixed that in Valhalla. Like, you have the opportunity to one-shot dudes, not like certain like bosses and mini bosses that you'll fight throughout the world as you explore, but regular guys. And I think that was really important, and it makes sense that, you know, they want to give you the experience of fighting the mini boss or the bosses, and it could be important to the story. The game's not perfect. Like FF7, there are some issues that I found with the game, and I would love to say that there are minor issues, but there are some pretty considerable ones, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But as an Assassin's Creed, if you've played any of like the main games or all of them through, I think you'll enjoy this one, despite all the bugs and mishaps that the game has. It's just the best. The ability system is really good. There are definitely some overpowered abilities. Everyone's talking about double spears being extremely busted. I haven't tried that. I use a longsword and an axe for my dual wielding. It just fits my playstyle. It's very me in a certain sense. But I like that. There's a lot of customization that you can do throughout the game to make the game feel like it's yours. And it's done. The ability system is done really, really well. Again, you can make the ability system the way you want to play, and I just really appreciate that. Now, of course, there are some massive bugs in the game. You can, chances are, if you've played the game, you've looked up the internet to like figure out like certain bugs that you're running into, see if anyone else has run into them. Chances are they have. There's Reddit conversations, there's Facebook pages about them. The worst one I ever got was actually in the middle of a boss fight. I'm not going to spoil too much, but there's a certain like side quest storyline that you can do. It's like a vision storyline. It's regarding your visions. I won't go into too much detail, but I had a boss fight there, and the boss actually got stuck under the ground. So I couldn't see the boss. And usually if bosses get like glitched like above the ground, you can still like hit them. So you can at least, you're not fighting the boss because the boss is stuck, but you can at least like progress the storyline, and at least like you can be kind of happy of like, okay, I had a bug, but at least I can continue the game. My boss was literally stuck under the ground. So if this is the ground, the boss was here. So I'm literally just staring at the ground while the boss is here. And I know the boss is there because you can lock on into targets and it'll tell you like where the enemy is. So it told me, because my character was always looking down. So I actually had to restart, and bosses have different phases. I was in the last phase of the boss, and I think I had probably like maybe about 25% of the boss's hit points left, and I couldn't do anything. Like I tried using different abilities, I tried swinging in different areas, and I just realized I was never going to hit the boss. So I had to restart. So that was pretty bad, honestly. But there are other bugs too. There's like certain quests that like you have to like there's an open map and there's a guy here to start your quest. Like if you walk in this way, the quest won't start and you'll get a bug. But if you walk in like any other direction, it'll start. And I thought, I was like, that's really weird. Like, I don't know. I feel like they should like fix that. And recent patches, like there's like, they'll fix certain things and then new things will come up. Like the most recent patch, like your character always starts off drunk, which is like kind of weird. I don't know if that's on purpose because it's like it's Christmas, New Year's, like ha ha ha, or if that actually is a bug. But it's not bad. But throughout the game, the bugs do kind of catch up to you, and it does get kind of annoying. So I do have to acknowledge that. But it is still a beautiful game, and it's massive, and I actually think that's a good thing. So a lot of people talk about, hey, the game's too big, there's too much to do, like I just want to do the main storyline. And you don't have to do everything. Like the main story is progressed in a way where you can just burst through the story. You might have to do a couple things to maybe get to the power level that you want to be to fighting bosses, but like I'm like twice the amount of the power level I should be because I just explore. I love exploring. I love doing riddles, puzzles, and all that stuff. So that's why I'm like a much higher level than I should be, a quote unquote should be. And I think actually doing a lot of stuff like exploring the game, exploring the environment, doing riddles is actually a fun thing, and giving the option players to do that is good. Now, the complaint of there's too much to do is true in some areas. Again, I won't spoil too much, but when you start doing like these vision quests, if you're like a completionist and you have to find, and you like have the urge to find like every treasure, they kind of do too much in those. Like there's like 30 treasures like in like the most obscure places in these vision quests, and it's like, all right, you could have maybe cut it down to like 15, like maybe 20 tops. Like 30 plus is like a little too much, and like it doesn't, there's not really much value that comes out of doing that, as opposed to exploring a beautiful environment, solving riddles, and then getting rewarded for it. So that would be kind of my thing, is like there's a lot to do, and that's a good thing. There's just certain times where it needs to get toned down. But overall, It's the best Assassin's Creed, I think, in terms of its evolution. I still think I think everyone's gonna always say like Assassin's Creed 4 is like a hit, and it's like it's kind of hard to beat a pirate theme assassin game. It's just like a fun theme. It's the best ship battles because you're using cannons. There's not ship battles here, but you know that they made naval combat in Black Flag really really fun. But I have to say, regarding the theme, even the main story, like I'm super like I haven't lost track of the main story despite all the massive exploration I'm doing. The main story is really really good. It's focused, it's refined, and again, I think they really listen to the fans. So I have to say that like if you're an Assassin's Creed fan, you're definitely gonna love Valhalla. And even for like first timers, it might be a little overwhelming, but try it out. I think you'll enjoy it. And my recommendation would be, if you haven't played an Assassin's Creed game before, just kind of play through the main storyline and then explore after you're done if you're that kind of gamer. But it was I'm still playing it, I'm enjoying it. I'll give my final review overall, but I'm, you know, probably as it stands, I'll probably give it the score I'm giving it now, which is like an 8 out of 10. So yeah, I have to say that I'm going to be playing in 2021 still, probably, and I'm excited to kind of start 2021 on that foot. Now the last game, you know, this was like a hot debate regarding like the game awards and all that stuff for 2020, but this by far was probably the best game I've played in a really really long time. And I'm really glad that I found it out through a friend, because I was really really busy with work, you know, with school, internship and all that stuff, and I just happened to watch my friend play this, and I'm really glad that that happened, because it's, oh man, to say that it's like one of my favorite games, like top 10 of all time, you know, that's a pretty big thing for me, especially for like a new recent game. So you know, this next game, like hands down, like if you haven't played it, please play it. And that game is Ghost of Tsushima. It's beautiful. The character development is wonderful. The side quest is just like, even the side quests, some of the side quests are like filled with content. There is one side quest in particular I have to point out, is like that was a little underwhelming, but other than that, the game was, I think, perfect in all rights. I honestly cannot remember any bugs. There might have been a couple, but they're unmemorable, because like I love that game so much. And there are like even like moments, if you start doing the completionist things, there's like beautiful things you can do while you are doing those side things. And but what really captivates me is it's user friendly. So you know, I've never I'm about to say something that's really really bad, so I might get flamed for this, but here goes. I'm gonna say it. So I've never played Dark Souls or Bloodborne or you know, any of those crazy difficult games where it's like you can die in like 2 hits to a normal dude. I tried Sekiro, and I gave up, honestly, because I was just like, this game's too hard. Like it's a lot. So that being said, I'm about to say good things in regards to that with Ghost of Tsushima. So Ghost of Tsushima follows those routes where you can die from normal dudes if you're being kind of reckless, but it's a little bit more user friendly. Like the combat system is a little bit more, I feel, refined. It does feel like very samurai-ish combat in a way. Like I can't speak for like, you know, actual samurai combat, but like kind of like what you see in anime or manga. Like that's what it kind of like. It kind of invokes that kind of feeling. And you know, if you get like hit once or twice, you have a chance to recover, gain some health, and then kind of reset yourself a little bit. So it's a little bit more user friendly, and I was worried about that, honestly, when I first started. You know, when I saw my friend play, you know, I was worried about that. I was like, am I gonna get like, you know, is it kind of one of those games? He's like, no, like it's so much more like friendly. And you know, I was glad about that, because my objective was to go through the story. And the story is, I can't spoil anything, because if you've never played it, like it's one of the best stories I've ever played in a video game. If not the best, honestly. And I have my biases, which is why it's probably hard for me to say it's the best, but it's one of the best. The story, like there are moments where I never cried during video games, but this game made me very, very close to crying, because the story is that good. Like just thinking about it now, it's like, wow, like I'm probably gonna replay it again at some point. So it's just, I don't want to spoil too much, but again, the story is the best. The character development is the best, and it's user friendly. So if you haven't played it, honestly, and you're like, I don't know what game to get for 2021 until like, other games like Horizon Zero Dawn, which I'm gonna get probably at some point whenever I can afford a PS5. Until those games come out, start off with Ghost of Tsushima. Like, honestly, I feel like that game should have won the Game of Awards, and a lot of people on the internet like would also vouch for that kind of statement. So that would be my recommendation. If you've not played Ghost of Tsushima, I avoided as many spoilers as I could. I think play it, buy it, play it. It's worth every cent to play that game. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope that I've convinced you, if you haven't played any of those 3 games that I mentioned, that you will buy them, that you will enjoy it as much as I did, because it kept me sane during the year of 2020. So hopefully you will be able to share the same experiences and same joy that I got from these games. So thank you all so much for watching. If you're still here and not subscribed, consider subscribing. I'll be releasing more content despite the business I am in right now. It's all for you guys. Just want to share my thoughts. But thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you for your next Nerd Fail.